A dead body is discovered in a forest. Detective Mehul rushes to the crime scene to investigate. There is no blood on the corpse, but he finds some fingerprints on the man's neck. After a few hours in the forest, Mehul finds some suspects. The skeleton says,
"I have not murdered the man. Why would I? I neither feel hungry nor thirsty."
The scarecrow says,
"Scaring crows away is my only job. I don't hunt and kill."
The mummy says,
"I haven't gotten out of my pyramid for years. It wasn't me."
The zombie says,
My stomach is full. Why would I kill someone? I haven't killed anyone.
after hearing all the defenses, can you tell me who murdered the man? Let us know in the comments below. Let's now check out the answer. There are fingerprint marks on the man's neck. Out of the suspects, only the zombie has fingers, so it was definitely him. Let's move to the next riddle. Roger was stressed out because of his work. He was drinking tea while working.
Hannah, bring my tea.
He says to his daughter. She brings the teacup and leaves. After a while, the light goes out, and by the time it came back on, Roger was dead on the floor. Detective Mehul rushes to the crime scene right away. He notices that Roger has left a clue before dying, which is the letter N-A from the killer's name. Tina, Joshna, and Hannah are Roger's 3 daughters. All 3 of their names end with the letter N-A. Mehul immediately realizes who must have killed Mr. Roger. How? Think and tell me your answer via comments. Let's have a look at the answer. When Roger died, he left N-A and was holding T, which means Tina. Mehul immediately catches her. Let's move on to the next riddle. Larry calls Detective Mehul in a haste to inform that his wife Serena had committed suicide. Mehul reaches the crime scene instantly. He examines the crime scene carefully, while Larry informs him that they had been in an ugly fight. Serena pulled out a poison pill bottle and consumed it, which became the cause of her death. Detective Mehul extracts the bottle and sends it to the lab for further testing. The lab in charge confirmed that it was in fact Serena's fingerprints on the bottle, and the pills that she consumed are the contents of this bottle. But this isn't a suicide, but a murder. By looking at Serena's fingerprints on the bottle, can you guess why did the lab in charge think so? Comment down your answer below. Let's now look answer. Notice that the fingerprints can only be seen on the bottle and not on the cap. Then how did she open the container? This means that Larry has strategically placed her fingerprints all over the bottle but did not do so for the cap. Hence, he was caught. Let's now jump to the next riddle. Josh has worked as a cab driver for 10 years. He frequently gets into arguments with his passengers. One day, he is found dead in his taxi. Detective Mehul is summoned for an investigation.
It appears to be a murder.
Mehul thinks to himself. Josh got into a dispute with 3 people that day. Detective Mehul immediately interrogates 3 people. Aaron says,
I took a cab to college. When I arrived, he requested me to pay him extra money, which I refused, and an argument ensued. Why would I murder him for a few bucks?
Nina says,
I was at work when I got a call. It was a medical emergency. My mother was admitted in the hospital. I needed to get to there as quickly as possible. Josh was driving very slowly. We had a fight because of this. I left after he dropped me off at about 2 p.m. I'm completely clueless.
Brandon explains.
Around 1 p.m., I was returning home from the supermarket after finishing my grocery shopping. I was carrying a lot of bags. He was demanding extra money for all of my belongings. Because of this, we had a disagreement.
Mehul carefully records their statements and quickly arrests the murderer. How? Who do you think killed Josh? Think about your answer and leave it in the comments section. Let's hop on to the answer. Out of all 3 of them, Nina was the last one to travel in Josh's cab. She booked the cab to go to the city hospital. If you noticed, Josh was found dead in his car right in front of the hospital. This means that she killed Josh. Interesting, wasn't it? Let's move on to the next one. Lily calls Detective Mehul and informs that her husband had been shot. When Mehul reaches the crime scene, Lily explains.
We were just talking. Out of nowhere, there were 2 gunshots and Bob was killed. The man was wearing a mask. He ran before I could even react.
Mehul instantly figures out that Lily was lying. Looking at the clues, can you guess why he thought so? Let us know in the comments below. Let's now look at the answer. The house was a mess, which means they were probably fighting before her husband died. The argument escalated and Lily shot her husband out of spite. Look at the bullet holes on the wall. They are of 2 different sizes, which means 2 different guns were used. Mehul understands this and arrests Lily immediately. Let's jump to the next riddle. While traveling along the highway, Detective Mehul noticed a man lying on the road. When he went to check on the man, he discovered that he had already died.
How could someone be killed on the highway, especially so far from town?
Mehul goes to the nearest toll booth and inquires about all of the vehicles that have passed through it today. 3 vehicles passed through the toll today. Mehul contacted all 3 owners and thoroughly inspected their automobiles from the inside out. This is car 1. This is car 2. This is car 3. After inspecting the cars, Mehul realizes who committed the murder. Can you guess? Take your time and leave your answer in the comments section. Let's have a look at the answers. Take a close look at the second vehicle. A red glove is lying in the corner, and the other glove in the pair is in the dead man's hand. That's how Mehul understands that the owner of the second car committed the murder. Daniel has been murdered in his own home. This incident occurs around 4 p.m. His wife calls Detective Mehul to her home right away. Mehul arrives there and thoroughly inspects every corner of the house, but he doesn't find anything. He then questions the maid and the cook. The maid says,
I went to Sir's room around 3:30 to give coffee. I didn't go back after that.
The cook says,
I never go to Daniel Sir's room. I was preparing dinner in the kitchen.
Daniel's wife explains,
I went to his room around 3:45. He was working on his computer and drinking his coffee at the time. Later, at 3:50 p.m., I went back to my room.
Mehul immediately realizes who must have committed the murder. How? Think and tell us your answer through comments. Let's see the answer. When Daniel's wife returned to her room at 3:50, the coffee mug was on Daniel's table. However, when he was killed, the coffee mug was not on the table, and only the maid could take it away. The cup can also be seen on the dining table. This means the maid killed Daniel when she went to his room to take the cup. Mehul immediately catches her. Let's see the next riddle. One morning, Rick was murdered. Detective Mehul reaches the crime scene immediately. As he enters Rick's house, he finds some clues.
The murderer must have entered through the window, killed Rick and escaped.
There were 4 people present in the house at the time of the murder. Mehul decides to interrogate all of them. The maid says,
I have been busy cleaning and dusting since morning. I don't know anything.
The cook says,
Sir, I have been in the kitchen preparing food. I don't know anything too.
Rick's daughter Lily says,
Sir, even I don't know anything about Dad's murder.
Rick's wife Lorraine says,
Sir, I was on the terrace, exercising. I don't know anything.
Upon hearing all the statements, Detective Mehul instantly understands who killed Rick. Can you guess? Let us know in the comments below. Let's now look at the answer. Rick's wife killed him. Shoe prints were found on the crime scene, and out of the 4 people, only she is wearing shoes. This means that she sneaked inside the room through the window and committed the crime. Mehul arrests her immediately. Let's jump to the next riddle. Martha rushes to the police station one day and pleads for help.
Sam and I got married yesterday. We left early this morning for our honeymoon. We got stuck in a bog on the way, and our car couldn't move. We attempted to pull the car out, but were unsuccessful. I left Sam there and went exploring the jungle in search of help. He was dead when I returned.
Explains Martha. Inspector Josh arrests her right away. Why? Why did he do that? Think about your answer and share it with me in the comments section. Here's the answer. There are 2 points that brought Inspector Josh to this conclusion. First, look at Martha carefully. She is wearing a white dress. How can it be so clean if they got stuck in the bog of mud in the middle of a jungle? Secondly, if they were stuck in the middle of the jungle and didn't receive any help, then how did she reach the police station? Interesting, wasn't it? Let's move on to the next one. Someone shoved Peter off the hotel terrace, and he died as a result. This news creates a commotion in the hotel, and the manager orders that the hotel will be locked from the inside. Nobody is permitted to leave the hotel. Detective Mehul arrives immediately to investigate the situation. He checks the hotel's visitor list at reception and suspects 2 persons because only they knew Peter.
I went out today and just returned. Clay arrived before me. I'm sure he shoved Peter.
I arrived here after Josh. He is responsible for pushing Peter.
Detective Mehul thoroughly examines their vehicles and immediately determines who pushed Peter. How? Can you guess? Consider your options and then let me know your final answer through comments. Here's the answer. Peter stayed in the hotel and did not leave. His car is the first to be parked. Josh's car is parked between Peter's and Clay's. He would not have parked his car between 2 automobiles if he had been the last one to arrive, since he would not have had enough space to get out of the car. This suggests he was the first to arrive. Clay clearly arrived late, whereas Josh arrived first. Detective Mehul recognizes this and swiftly arrests Josh. Wasn't it interesting? Let us proceed to the next one. It was a beautiful sunny day. Torvi decided to go shopping, because it's been a long time since she had done so. She got dressed and went out early in the morning. Even though it was nearly evening, Torvi did not return home. Her husband kept calling her, but she didn't answer. He then calls Detective Mehul and informs him that his wife Torvi went shopping at Hallmark Mall in the morning, but hasn't yet returned home. He also tried to call her, but her phone is also out of service. Mehul rushes over to the house and questions everyone. Torvi's daughter says,
I was going to go shopping with Mom today, but she canceled the plan with me and told me she was going with someone else.
Her maid says,
Today I was going shopping with Ma'am, but she asked me to stay at home. Instead, she said she was going out with a friend.
Her husband says,
I've been in the office since afternoon. I tried calling her several times, but she never answered. When I got home, she wasn't there, so I called you.
Torvi's friend claims,
She didn't ask me to go shopping. I was at home all day. You can also check my CCTV cameras. I don't know anything.
Mehul immediately understands who has done the kidnapping. How did he get it? Let's look at the answer. The maid is lying. She was not there at home. Look at the Hallmark Mall bags behind her. This clearly shows that she went shopping. Mehul immediately catches her. Let's move on to the next riddle. Please take a careful look at these 2 pictures and tell me who the killer is, A or B? If you observe the knife in B's pocket, you'll notice that it has blood on it, indicating that B is the killer. For more riddles like this, please consider subscribing to Mind Your Logic.